My name is Laura Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and I never thought the people who raised me would one day try to take everything I owned. The house wasn't just property. It was the only place where I ever felt safe. A quiet countryside home my grandfather left behind. Old wooden floors, a wide porch, and a garden that still smelled like summer, even in winter. That house was mine, legally, emotionally, completely. Or at least, that's what I believed. Until one ordinary Sunday shattered everything. I remember it clearly. I had come over for dinner like I always did. Same table, same routine. But something felt off. Too quiet. Too careful. As I walked past the kitchen, I heard voices. My parents. I wasn't trying to listen, but then I heard my name. "We should list it next week," my father said. "It's the only way to help Nina," my mother replied softly. I froze. List it? Help Nina? My heart started pounding as I leaned closer to the wall. "She won't agree," my father continued. "She doesn't need to," my mother said. "We still have the spare key." In that moment, something inside me cracked. They weren't asking, they were planning to sell my house, behind my back, all for my younger sister Nina. That night, I sat at the dinner table pretending everything was normal, but every smile felt fake. Every word felt heavy. And then, after dessert, it happened. My father cleared his throat. "Laura, we need to talk about the house." I already knew. Still, I asked quietly, "What about it?" My mother leaned forward, her tone gentle, too gentle. "Nina's expecting. She needs a proper home, somewhere peaceful." I nodded slowly. "So?" My father exhaled. "We think it's best if you sell the house. Help her start her life." I stared at them. They said it so casually, as if they were discussing furniture, not my home. "You mean my house?" I asked. "It's family property," my mother corrected. No, it wasn't, but they had already decided that. I could feel it. "I'm not selling it," I said, my voice steady. Silence. Then my father's tone hardened. "Don't be selfish, Laura." Selfish. That word hit harder than anything else. All the years I had helped them, supported them, given money whenever they asked, and now I was selfish? "For once," I said quietly, "I want something to be mine." My sister finally spoke, scrolling through her phone like none of this was serious. "The extra room would be perfect for a nursery," she said. Like it was already hers. Like I didn't exist. That was it. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly across the floor. "I said no." My mother sighed dramatically. "Why are you making this difficult?" "Because it's my life. Because it's my home. Because I'm tired of being the one who gives everything." But I didn't say all that. I just grabbed my bag and walked out. Behind me, I could still hear them talking, planning, assuming I would eventually give in. But this time, I wouldn't. The next few days were chaos. Calls, messages, pressure. My father sent long texts explaining family responsibility. My mother cried over the phone, saying I was tearing the family apart. And Nina, she sent pictures. Baby clothes, furniture, even nursery designs, like the house was already hers. Then one message changed everything. "We've scheduled a viewing this Saturday." I read it 3 times. Viewing? My hands started shaking. I called immediately. "You can't do that," I said. "We already did," my father replied calmly. "We have access." That's when it hit me. They weren't just crossing a line. They had erased it completely. I hung up and just sat there, staring at nothing. For years, I had been the reliable one, the one who never said no. And this is where it led me, to being treated like I didn't matter. That night, I called my best friend Chloe. "They're trying to sell my house," I whispered. There was a pause. Then she said something that changed everything. "Then stop them." "How?" I asked. by not playing their game anymore. I didn't fully understand at first, but later that night, lying awake, something became clear. I had two choices: keep fighting them or make a move they'd never expect. And that's when the idea came. Bold, scary, but powerful. If they wanted the house sold so badly, fine, I would sell it, but on my terms, not theirs, not for them, and definitely not for Nina. The next morning, I didn't hesitate. I called a real estate agent. "I want to sell my property," I said firmly. Within days, everything moved fast. Photos were taken, listings went live, and interest started pouring in. I priced it strategically, just enough to attract serious buyers. I wasn't doing this emotionally anymore. I was doing it smart. Then one buyer stood out: Daniel Hayes. He wasn't flashy, didn't rush, didn't negotiate aggressively. Instead, he walked through the house slowly, respectfully, like he understood what it meant. At one point, he stood near the window and said quietly, "This place feels real." That's when I knew. That same evening, his offer came in. Full price, no complications, quick closing. I didn't hesitate. I signed. 2 weeks later, it was done. The house was no longer mine, but more importantly, it was no longer theirs to take, and they had no idea. Yet, the truth exploded the following weekend. My father called me in a panic so intense I could barely understand him. "There's a man in the house," he shouted. "We went to check the rooms, and he threatened to call the police." I closed my eyes for a second. They had really gone. They had taken the spare key, walked into a property they thought they still controlled, and acted like owners. I grabbed my keys and drove straight there. By the time I arrived, a police car was parked outside. My mother stood near the porch, looking pale and confused. Nina was crying in the passenger seat. My father was red-faced, arguing with the officer. And standing near the front steps was Daniel, calm, composed, unbothered. The second my father saw me, he pointed angrily. "Tell them this is your house." I looked at him, then at my mother, then at my sister. And for the first time in my life, I felt no guilt at all. "It was my house," I said. "I sold it 2 weeks ago." Everything went silent. My mother's face dropped. Nina stared at me like she had stopped breathing. My father looked completely stunned. "You sold it?" "Yes," I said, "because it belonged to me, and I was done letting all of you treat my life like it was yours to manage." The officer turned toward Daniel and asked if he wanted to file a trespassing complaint. Daniel shook his head. "Not if they leave now." My father stepped toward me, furious. "You betrayed this family." I almost laughed. "No," I said. "I finally protected myself from it." Nina burst into tears, saying I had ruined everything, that she needed that house, that I had chosen money over blood. But that wasn't true. I hadn't chosen money. I had chosen boundaries. I had chosen dignity. I had chosen myself. They left angry, humiliated, and louder than ever. For weeks, the calls kept coming. Accusations, blame, emotional blackmail. Even relatives started reaching out, telling me I should have been more understanding. But none of them had ever been asked to give up their home. None of them had spent years being the dependable daughter, while everyone else took and took and took. So I stopped explaining. I stopped defending. And I stopped apologizing for surviving. Months later, the silence became peace. I paid off debt. I saved money. I slept better. I smiled more. And somewhere in that quiet, I finally understood what my grandfather had really left me. It wasn't just a house. It was a lesson. That love without respect becomes control. That kindness without limits becomes permission. And that sometimes the hardest thing you will ever do is choose yourself over the people who never expected you to. But when you do, your whole life changes. Because real family does not steal from you. Real family does not corner you. Real family does not call your sacrifice love. And if they do, then walking away is not betrayal. It's freedom,